So warm welcome here in our studio. It's Sarah Kunda, this is Star TV News, and I am Dado Chan. In the headlines tonight, coronavirus enters Gambia after a lady in her 20s traveled back into the country with infection, revealed Dr. Samate, Gambia Health Minister, on Tuesday. CDS Kinte officially hands over to Major General Drame in a colorful ceremony. Gach Global donated borehole and renovated a 1972 mosque in Sanyang community. Gambians call on government to close all land and air borders as they react to the COVID-19 virus which hits the Gambia last night. On the international scene, food and medical supply in short supply in Sudan due to coronavirus. Sri Lanka school closed for 5 weeks to control the spread of the coronavirus. War-torn Yemen gear up for coronavirus battle. Those were our headlines, and now the news in details. The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmadu Samate, revealed to Gambians Tuesday evening immediately after President Barrow's statement on GRTS that a lady in her 20s is receiving medical care at Medical Research Council after testing positive for the coronavirus, making her the first coronavirus person in the Gambia. Maimunejo files in this report.
Dr. Samata said on GRTS the lady is currently in isolation and receiving excellent medical care at the Medical Research Council clinic in Fajara.
Of COVID-19 in the Gambia. This particular confirmed case is a lady in her 20s who returned from the UK on Sunday through the Banjul International Airport. A day after arrival, she started to have fever and decided to self-isolate at home. She reported to the MRC under isolation and was tested and found to be positive. The Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the Medical Research Council, have started the process of contact tracing and will endeavor to reach all contacts, especially those in the same flight. The public is hereby informed that all patients who came, all passengers who came in the same flight or in contact with the confirmed case will be traced and undergo isolation. The team has started looking for all such contacts. The laboratory results for the positive case came after the broadcast of the presidential statement on the government's efforts on the COVID-19 prevention.
This is different from the 2 suspected cases from Indonesia that tested to be negative. This announcement marks the first case of the COVID-19 in the Gambia. This particular confirmed case is a lady in her 20s who returned to the country on Sunday from UK through the Banjul International Airport. Meanwhile, before registering a first confirmed case of coronavirus, Gambia leader President Barrow declares that all public gatherings are suspended henceforth. This suspension includes all international and local conferences, workshops and seminars to be hosted in the Gambia. According to the president, all schools, including universities, madrasas and daras or majlis, will be closed from Wednesday, 18 March 2020 for 21 days. President Barrow further revealed that all other public gatherings in whatever form, including lumos, open markets and gamos, are immediately suspended for 3 weeks. The suspension period will be subject to review as we get updates from the experts. As another preventive measures, all travelers from hotspot countries will be isolated for 14 days upon arrival in the Gambia.
206 are still under surveillance. Of the total seen, only 8 required laboratory testing and their results were all negative. I take this opportunity to express my support to all those affected in one way or the other, and to assure you of my government's commitment to preventing any coronavirus infection in the country. Fellow Gambians, on the 11th March 2020, the World Health Organization, WHO, declared COVID-19 a pandemic. Many countries continue to report cases of infection, including our close neighbor, Senegal, which confirmed its first case on 29 February 2020. They now have 24 confirmed cases with evidence of local person-to-person transmission.
Reporting for Star TV News, I am Maimuna Juf.
CDS Masane Kinte on Tuesday officially handed over to Major General Yankuba Drame in a colorful ceremony held in Banjul on Tuesday. The ceremony is part of the conscious effort of the Gambia Armed Forces to revive the military tradition, which was described as a pull-out ceremony by the government and women in uniform. Modu Baji was there and now he reports.
It may be recalled that Major General Yankuba Drame was appointed as Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces by the President of the Republic, Adama Barrow, on 5th March 2020. His appointment attracted this official handing over ceremony from Major General Masane N. Kinte. Following the inception of the new government in 2016, the outgoing CDS was redeployed from the foreign services to serve as the security advisor to the president. Kinte was then reappointed as Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces. In his handing over speech, the outgoing CDS Masane N. Kinte set light on the tasks given to him in his initial appointment by the president 3 years ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, exactly 3 years ago, the President and Commander-in-Chief, His Excellency Adama Barrow, thought it worthy to bring me back to the Gambia Armed Forces by appointing me to the enviable position of Chief of Defense Staff. I assumed this role at a very difficult time when the country emerged from a political impasse. The Gambia Armed Forces being a victim of this situation simply because the members of the Gambia National Army then orchestrated the breakdown of democratic rule in 1994. The President gave me a task to lead the reform of the Gambia Armed Forces and to ensure that the Armed Forces is seen out of politics and politics is seen out of the Armed Forces. Today, I wish to extend my heartfelt appreciation to the President for having the trust and confidence to give me this daunting task, which I can conveniently report today that we have made positive and remarkable gains as an armed force, in which all members played a very important role. I want to appreciate each one of you, for without you, I will not have made it this far. When I assumed the role as CDS, I quickly went on a countrywide tour of all military installations in the country, and also I met all the regional governors as well as the local community elders.
Advent of the new political dispensation in 2017, the Gambia Armed Forces outlined ambitious and yet attainable targets which are exclusively designed to restructure and reorganize the Gambia Armed Forces in strict conformity with the expectations of the Gambian people and, by extension, the international community. This well-thought strategic decision is based on the strong premise to have a vibrant, effective, and professional armed forces that is transparent, subordinate, and accountable to civilian authority, one. Secondly, an armed forces that is responsive to the needs and aspirations of Gambians and non-Gambians alike resident in this country. Number three, an armed forces whose actions are firmly rooted within the rule of law and other international best standards. And finally, an armed forces that adequately addresses its international obligations, especially in the context of peacekeeping operations. We have an enviable track record that can be attributed to these fine men and women who've made us feel proud in all these missions. Having served at the United Nations, I feel proud as a father
CDS Drame urged the gallant men and women in uniform to love what they are doing for the betterment of this country. He further extended compliments to the Commander-in-Chief of the Gambia Armed Forces, His Excellency Adama Barrow, and all those behind the scenes who made this day a success. Reporting for Star TV, I am Modu Elbaji.
Gach Global Trading Company donated a borehole worth $500,000 to the Sanyang School and renovate a mosque for the community. The mosque happened to be the oldest in Sanyang village, as it was built since 1972. Mariama Dem was there, and now she reports.
The borehole was inaugurated on Wednesday by Gach Global representatives along with community elders, school teachers and students. The project is aimed at helping the community of Sanyang and its surrounding villages to have access to clean and fresh drinking water, as water is a basic need for every human being. Fatoumata Jawara, founder of Ma Foundation, on behalf of the CEO of Gach Global Trading Company, says they came up with the project because they believe the government alone cannot do it, and as citizens of the country, they believe in giving back to the community as they are in need of it. Brukus Jete, on behalf of the Alcalo of Sanyang village, showed gratitude and thanked Gach Global Trading Company for the great gesture they bring for the Sanyang community. The principal of the Sanyang Secondary School also thanked Gach Global for the borehole and solar panel for his school and assured them that his school will take good care of the borehole. The students too made similar remarks during the inauguration. Meanwhile, Gach Global Trading Company team is also engaged on a sensitization campaign to raise awareness on the COVID-19 by giving out hand sanitizers, liquid soaps and posters to school children, religious leaders, car parks and other public places. Gach Global is a Gambian-based company that focuses on a tomato factory, security, mining and construction. Maria Madem for Star TV News.
Gambia's Writers Association on Tuesday, 17 March, briefed the press on the upcoming campaign on the coronavirus pandemic which is affecting Gambians. Maimuna Diouf reports.
As Writers Association of the Gambia, they came up with the idea to sensitize the general public on this COVID-19 and measures to be taken by the people to prevent themselves from this pandemic virus. The ways they want to sensitize people are through acting dramas, sketching and poetry to help people receive full education on the coronavirus, which is known as COVID-19, which is killing thousands of people in the world. The PRO of the Writers Association Gambia, Mr. Ibrahima Esba, gives an overview of the Writers Association of the Gambia.
We also observed a competition that was staged between some junior secondary schools in the form of poetry, drama and story writing at the Ebunjan Theatre. On that very day we were celebrating the World Book and Copyright Day. It was a very stiff competition and it involved 4 schools where St. Augustine's, emerged first, and St. Joseph's Senior Secondary School emerged second, and the other 2 schools were runners-up.
Mr. Hassim Sisa says it's a pleasure to be associated with this noble initiative.
Has taken up that was very, very seriously. And we at the NCAC here, we are happy, and we will also encourage the other artistic associations, musicians, filmmakers, dance, theater, drama.
The president of the Writers Association Gambia, Dr. Chandra Omar Bari, told the press that the coronavirus, which is now called the COVID-19, is declared a pandemic and the Gambia is not an exception, and the possibilities of having it in the Gambia is very high.
A worldwide phenomenon, and that is exactly where we are today. When it becomes a worldwide phenomenon, the Gambia is no exception to this, and it becomes a global outbreak. It means the Gambia is not excluded in the event. So the possibilities of having it here, if it has not yet sneaked in, is very, very, very high. Because many West African countries already have it. The world is struggling to contain it. Deaths are rising in number every day in even the most developed countries. So therefore it is a cause for concern. You see, when coronavirus was mentioned, the first 3 things we think about is its spread, its severity, and unfortunately the inaction You see, it is spreading like wildfire across the whole continent, the whole globe. And it is very severe because it is taking lives in large numbers in some countries and probably in smaller numbers.
Omar NKCC recites a poem exactly befitting the gathering title, Panic of the Pandemic.
Our hearts are jumping out from the chest. Our vessels are in the battle. The world is paralyzed. We are living in the world of terror. A demonic pandemic corona is living tragically with us, and yet no tangible solution, and yet no suitable tonic. Our hearts are panic. Our minds are in dilemma. No eyes can see the virus. Even the microscope have to struggle to view the virus. Dozen viruses came and stopped in short moments, but corona is the fastest pandemic corona, which is still deleting and eliminating the world population, yet no tangible solution. Corona is corrupting and polluting our health. Our hearts are caged in the cave of fear. Our hands are no more shaking, no more hawking, borders no more walking, nobody in, nobody out. Everybody is panic. No man is free to fly.
Reporting for Star TV News, I am Maimuna Juf.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmadu Samate, has revealed on GRTS that a confirmed case of the coronavirus has been registered in the Gambia. The said person is currently under isolation. It's a Gambian lady in her 20s who came back from the UK. Star TV Mariama then went out to the street to sound the reaction Gambians regarding the virus. And now she reports.
Mamadou Alpha Diallo believes that the government should have taken preventive measures long before it enters the country, and all borders should be monitored by the Ministry of Health, and advises people to adhere to the preventive measures put in place.
We will say that the Gambia government should have taken preventive measures long before, because our neighbor Senegal confirmed series of cases. So I think in terms of the border checkup and the airport and every other post that is an entry to the country should actually be monitored by the Ministry of Health. But we have seen that that hasn't happened. All we can do is just first of all to make sure that we go by the preventive measures that have been allocated to us as the citizens of the country. At the end of the day, it's really a concern for all the Gambians. It has been a concern before because it's already in Senegal, in Touba, and then in other parts of Senegal as well. Even though we haven't taken our preventive measures, I mean the Gambian government, but now all we can do is to make sure that we adhere to the President's call to avoid public gathering amongst others as well.
Umi Jallo, a resident of Banjul, appealed to the government to close all the borders to prevent people bringing the virus in the country. She added that the registered case should be taken seriously. She further urges the general public to minimize public gatherings and adhere to the preventive measures. Ibrahima Kundul also says people should take all the precautions given by the president and the health officials, and it is the only way one can prevent him or herself. He also believes that it is very important for all borders to be closed for the country's safety. Mariama Besin also advises parents to make sure children always clean their hands and provide clean food and water, and appeal to the government to close all borders and stop flights landing in the country. Meanwhile, people have been busy buying hand sanitizers, masks, gloves, among other preventive materials to prevent themselves from COVID-19. Coronavirus, which was first identified in Wuhan, China in December 2019 and now called COVID-19, continues to spread primarily in China, but cases have also appeared in many other countries globally, including the Gambia. Maria Madem, reporting for Star TV News.
Now, news beyond our borders. Sudan has only one confirmed death from the coronavirus so far, but many fear that they will not be able to afford a doctor if they catch the disease. The government has announced a state of emergency and closed borders, and food prices are rising as shortage worst. Al Jazeera Habi Mogad reports from Khartoum.
Coming from work empty-handed has become the norm for Yohanna Yaqub. The daily laborer makes little money, and food prices have soared since the discovery of the coronavirus here.
We don't have health insurance. If someone in the family gets really sick, we try to get them treatment, but if we don't have the money, we wait for the illness to pass. We rarely eat nutritious food. Now with this new disease, I've not even thought of stocking up because I barely have money for one day.
Fruit prices have trebled since the virus was found in Sudan. Several government directives have been issued aimed at containing the spread, including banning large crowds. But over the past few weeks, fuel and bread shortages have resulted in long queues. And that's not the only challenge. The guy behind me is selling masks at 50 pounds a piece. That's the equivalent of $1 using the official exchange rate. An entire box is worth $50. Health workers here say prior to the detection of the coronavirus, a box of masks was worth just $5. Masks, as well as hand sanitizers, quickly disappeared from shelves in shops and pharmacies and are now sold in the streets. With half of Sudan's 40 million officially living in poverty, they're a luxury many can't afford.
We're talking about thousands of infections, potential infections, I would say. But people reacting in the streets, I would say, it's become more of a careless because I cannot afford that. I would rather buy food so that I can live.
The virus will affect everyone, so we should be working together to fight it and try to protect the country to make sure the virus doesn't spread.
The government has also prepared isolation centers, like this one near the border with Egypt, a country where more than 100 cases have been reported. But Sudan has suffered 20 years of international sanctions and has less than 7 doctors for every 1,000 people. Basic equipment's also in short supply.
The equipment for testing, the places, the doctors and the kits are very limited in number, but we have to centralise it to make sure that the testing for this new virus is done safely and correctly. There was a test that was negative, and then a second test that showed a positive. This is common in many diseases and complicates matters, so we have to do repeated tests, and now we're working to get the support for that.
Johannes says he has little hope of providing for his family with the nutrition needed to help protect them. But he hopes that if the coronavirus does reach his family, they get the medical support needed. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Khartoum.
A gathering of Muslims held at the end of last month at a mosque complex on the outskirts of Malaysia's capital has emerged as a source of hundreds of new coronavirus infections spanning Southwest Asia. It was attended by 16,000 people, including 1,500 foreigners. Al Jazeera Florence Long reports.
Hours before Malaysia shut its borders, thousands of Malaysian workers who normally commute to work in Singapore every day rushed to leave. Students also formed long lines at bus terminals as confusion over whether campuses would shut prompted many to try to leave too. Police stations were crowded after people were told they would require permits for interstate travel, only for police to temporarily withdraw the order. Even after the partial lockdown was imposed, social distancing was forgotten as buyers rushed to supermarkets to stock up on essentials.
People coming, rushing and crowding out the area, it's still going to spread. It's still going to spread anyway. We should be more calm.
Infectious diseases experts have watched with alarm at what's happening here. The Director General of Health has warned of a possible third wave of infections if people don't obey the government's order to restrict their movements. Malaysia has confirmed its first deaths and reported a sudden spike in COVID-19 cases in the last few days, many linked to a 4-day gathering of Muslim missionaries at a mosque near Kuala Lumpur. 16,000 people from Malaysia and abroad were there. The government says it's managed to trace more than 8,000 of them so far. But already, those who attended the event have carried the virus back to 6 other Southeast Asian countries. Elsewhere, Australia's Prime Minister made an unprecedented announcement.
We are upgrading the travel ban on Australians to level 4 for the entire world. That is the first time that has ever happened in Australia's history. The travel advice to every Australian is do not travel abroad. Do not go overseas.
The Australian government's also banned all non-essential indoor gatherings of more than 100 people. But from Hubei province in China, the origin of the coronavirus outbreak, more cause for optimism. Medical workers from other provinces who've been helping to cope with the crisis are going home as the number of new cases continues to fall. South Korea reported fewer than 100 new daily cases for the 4th day in a row. Both China and South Korea apparently demonstrating how they are winning the war, albeit with different methods. China by placing severe restrictions for everyone, and South Korea with aggressive testing. Florence Louis, Al Jazeera, Kuala Lumpur.
Sri Lanka has closed schools and universities to control the spread of coronavirus. It has disrupted the academic calendar, including first-term exams, which were due to start this week. Al Jazeera Minal reports from Colombo.
Teachers at this small school in Colombo are ensuring their students don't fall behind in their studies now their doors have closed. They're preparing packs for home study. The government surprised staff here when it ordered all educational institutions to close for 5 weeks to help stop the spread of COVID-19.
This was critical, basically because we didn't know why the sudden, within 45 minutes we were told schools are closing till the 20th of April. It's not like a corporation where you can put a few files in the drawer and say, we'll come back to you. These are children.
All schools in Sri Lanka are now closed as it braces for a rise in coronavirus numbers.
There are usually around 3,000 students coming to this school every day, but fears of the coronavirus has kept them and more than 4 million like them around the country at home. The authorities hope the decision to close schools will help minimize the potential transmission of the virus among children.
Sri Lanka's health chief says the sheer number of pupils interacting with each other within school grounds would make it difficult to contain the virus.
They are not that matured as to how to behave in a situation like this. Can you ask your kid to wash your hands and keep the distance, this and that? Even adults violate, right? So it's not easy.
Dr. Jayasinghe is confident pupils will catch up on their studies when they return to school, but says schools must engage with them while they're away.
We can go to each individual child and open that pain.
Teachers at La Petite Fleur are brainstorming with parents on how best to use online tools for learning.
The technology is available, the connectivity is available, everything is out there, the infrastructure is ready. It's just a matter of putting a person's set together, set of heads together and making use of what's available.
Students and parents seem happy for now with what they're offering. Home study packs and even term exams with detailed instructions.
I feel very happy now and I have more free time, but I also feel sad because I don't get to go for my basketball practices.
He just hopes the virus will be contained and he'll be back with his friends at school by the end of April. Minna Fernandez, Al Jazeera, Colombo.
U.S. former Vice President Joe Biden has scored major victories in Democratic primaries across 3 states, despite the coronavirus outbreak. The win helped him move closer to the Democratic nomination and to challenge President Donald Trump for the top job in November. Al Jazeera Adi Galach reports.
At polling stations in Florida, Arizona and Illinois, it wasn't just the democratic process officials were concerned about. The rapid spread of the coronavirus saw low voter turnout, furious cleaning and polling staff not manning the booths over health concerns. Many voted early or by mail, but those that turned out on Tuesday were cautious.
If anyone looks sick or appears sick, stay away. Other than that, that's the best you can do.
All you can do is just try to stay clean, wash your hands, limit any public interaction if you can. I mean, I'm going to go home after this. I'm not really going to be out hanging out with people, so.
Officials in Ohio declared a health emergency, delaying their primary until June. The state's governor called it an unprecedented health crisis that left some voters disappointed.
I really wanted to vote. I wanted to make sure my voice is heard, especially, from all the years back in the past where African Americans couldn't vote. So.
Despite the confusion, concerns and recommendations not to gather in large crowds, the night belonged to Joe Biden. The former vice president now has the momentum, delegate counts, and is seen by many as best able to take on President Trump.
We're all in this together. This is a moment for each of us to see and believe the best in every one of us, to look out for our neighbor, to understand the fear and stress that so many are feeling.
Biden now has a near insurmountable lead over Bernie Sanders. He didn't address his losses on Tuesday, instead appealing for more federal help for the pandemic.
We need to provide
a direct emergency $2,000 cash payment to every household in America every month for the duration of the crisis to provide them with the assistance they need to pay their bills and take care of their families.
In his remote address to the nation, Joe Biden spoke directly to Sanders supporters, telling them, "I hear you." Sanders' movement is still a powerful force, and Biden's appeal is perhaps a sign of things to come. The former vice president wants to unite both the country and the party, and to do that, he'll need those supporters on board. Andy Gallagher, Al Jazeera, Miami, Florida.
In Yemen's capital, Sana'a, a factory has opened to make medical masks in a bid to prepare for the spread of coronavirus. The country has not yet been hit, but with a healthcare system that has been disseminated by years of war, people are not taking any chances. Al Jazeera, Lua Bondurt, Maki reports.
These face masks are high in demand across the globe. In Yemen's capital Sana'a, a factory shut for 2 decades has reopened to prepare the country for the COVID-19 coronavirus. Even though so far, the country has reported 0 infections.
We have been pressured by the coronavirus emergency, and so the factory went into mask production with the resources available. We're helping to supply the masks in order to combat the effects of this outbreak.
Walk around the factory and the scars from almost 5 years of war are present. This old textile factory was hit by missiles in 2015.
We are in the textile area. The first missile hit here and created a hole 6.5 meters deep.
In the region, Iran has been worse hit by the outbreak, with more than 1,600 cases and more than 900 deaths. From there, the virus has slowly spread across the Middle East and North Africa, infecting at least 1,500 people. Now many of the countries affected have sealed off their borders in an effort to contain the virus. This week, Yemen's Saudi-backed government and Houthi rebels announced they would suspend flights to and from airports under their control, only allowing for emergency aid planes. But the most concerning area is a healthcare system that's been decimated by the war. Cholera infected more than 500,000 people in 2019 and pushed the healthcare infrastructure far beyond its limits. Where the WHO's advice has been to keep hands clean to prevent the spread of the virus, a researcher from Human Rights Watch asked on Twitter, how can people frequently wash their hands when the contamination of water has already led to the crippling cholera epidemic? And while Western countries are taking extraordinary measures against the coronavirus, the question is, can it be contained somewhere like Yemen, a country with a fragile healthcare system and torn apart by years of war? Laura Berger-Manley, Al Jazeera.
And before we end this news, a recap of our main headlines. Coronavirus entered Gambia after a lady in her 20s traveled back into the country with infection, revealed Dr. Samate, Gambian Health Minister, on Tuesday. CDS Kinte officially hands over to Major General Drame in a colorful ceremony. Gutch Global donated borehole and renovate a 1972 Maxim signing community. Gambians calls on government to close all land and air borders as they react to the COVID-19 virus which hits the Gambia last night. Food and medical supply in short supply in Sudan due to coronavirus. Sri Lanka school closed for 5 weeks to control the spread of the coronavirus. What on Yamijia of the coronavirus battle? That's all for this edition of the news. Please enjoy the rest of our programs and join us for tomorrow's news. Thank you.